while I was in the university, particularly in my third year, um, I discovered the Latin Mass, right, in my third year,
Okay.
and but then it was far away from with my school. So not just myself, but some group of young men with me alongside myself who would try to raise money, our own pocket money, and to save money occasionally to go to the mass. That is the indoor mass. But when we are at home, that is during the vacation from school, during the holidays, we cannot raise, we cannot afford such a money. So what I would do would be on Sundays I would just stay at home, read the missal,
Hmm.
read my missal, and then that's what I did. But it began to get to the ears of my uncle that I stopped going to church,
Hmm.
and so that's when that ordeal began.
Now, at this time, you said you were going to the indult, or at least trying to get out to the indult mass, but then you were also not. You were also you in conscious. You couldn't go to the Novus Ordo. So, at the did that? How did you come to that conclusion? I because for my own self, I remember when I was attending the indult. Okay, I felt conscious that I had to go to the Novus Ordo. So I thought, I'm like, okay, I don't want to go to the Novus Ordo. I avoided the Novus Ordo as possible in my thinking, but I would go to so I tried every way to get to an indult. So what I'm saying, whereas if, like, let's say you were with the SSPX, or let's say you're obviously Sedevacantist, you would sense no need to go to the Novus Ordo. You would never want to go. But as an indult person, most indult people, maybe they don't like the Novus Ordo, but they feel if there's no Novus Ordo, I still got to go. What brought you to that place where you were just like, I'm not going there. I'm gonna stay home, read my missal, and yet you were not resistance or you know what I mean, or Sedevacantist at that time. Was it?
Yes.
Explain a little bit.
Well, in the first place, I had never heard about Sedevacantism at the time, never at that time, or not even all those terms, resistance and indult, and I'd never heard of those. So, in any case, you see, so what helped me was the fact that I didn't come to this conclusion alone.
Okay.
We were in the university, so we were in a group of young men who were always studying, trying to know what to do. So we discovered the indult mass, and you see, it was so at the beginning, when we can't afford the indult mass, we will go to the Novus Ordo in the school there. But you see, the whenever we can, we'll go to the indult mass. But on Sundays, when we cannot go to the indult mass, you will have to now sit and try to endure. The difference became so clear between these two masses that it became a kind of a form of ordeal, to go through the Novus Ordo every time. But we still did, we still went to morning masses, weekday masses. We still went there, but we felt that we were doing better for ourselves when we went to the indult mass.
Yeah.
Well, at this time we kept studying, looking at books, and we discovered that the indult mass is just an extension of the Novus Ordo. You see that?
Yeah.
So we began to decide what do we tried at first to talk to the priests, the indult priest, to make him see that this is Novus Ordo, that he should leave them, and join us, and then it didn't work out. And then we began to navigate towards the SSPX, because they were more conservative than the indults.
Now let me ask you actually, how are you learning about, let's say, the SSPX and in these groups? Was there just a lot of material, or you just happened to people just looking online and researching, or how are you hearing
Online,
about
yeah.
them? Okay.
Mostly online, yes, and yeah, mostly online. We will research, we will read this and read so many. We read so many. We had, in fact, not only did we read, we had to print these things and distribute to people in the school.
Oh,
We
so you
have
would go.
yes, and we have posters. We posted them on the walls in the school buildings. In fact, we're like we're considered a kind of a very weird set of person, because we'll go and we'll go to there's this website tradicio.com.
Oh yes, okay.
We'll print all those things and we'll put, and so we were quite troublesome. They saw us troublemakers, when we were in school.
Is
In
this
any
school
case,
Catholic school? Was this a Catholic school
no,
or?
it's a secular
Okay.
university, secular. Yeah. Well, that's so we at some point through online reading and asking questions and everything, we there was a priest who was learning how to say mass in the indoor place there, who eventually now went to the SSPX. He's late now, so we followed him. In fact,
Oh,
as he went to the I mean, we because he to us he was more conservative than the indult. We sort of joined him, but then he had to go get training in Switzerland, where he got his training. So we waited for him to come back. So meanwhile, we began to have our meetings alone. So when others would go to the weekday masses, we would go to the school to pray.
Hmm.
We would say our matins. We didn't know what we were saying, but we said our matins. We said our rosaries. We formed our group. But then while we prayed, we kept making researches.
sure.
By the time that priest came back to Nigeria, we had discovered the Sedevacantist group.
Now let me stop you here, Father, Excellency.
Yes.
Um,
Mm.
this priest, this priest was an indult Nova Soto priest that decided to go to the SSPX and get trained.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
and you made contact with him, and so you were excited that he was going to go to come SSPX, come back.
Yes,
Do
for
you,
us. And come back for us, yes.
yeah, come back for you. Do
Yes.
you know? This is just a side note. Do you know? Did he get conditionally ordained, or do you have any idea about that?
He did. I think he did, yes.
Oh, okay.
But he was not trained. From what I hear, benefit, they said he was not properly trained. Like while he was in Switzerland and Gabon, South Africa, he was just assisting them in the chapel, but he didn't receive any further training. He just got ordained. Yes.
So when he came back to Nigeria, and then he said, "Hey, I'm back." And
So,
you guys
by
say,
the time he came back, some of us had moved on.
yes, okay.
Yes.
Within your group of friends, your Excellency, did everybody kind of move on together at the same?
No. No. So we were quite a lot when we got to the indult.
Mm-hmm.
We left some people there when we got to the SSPX. And then we left some people there when we moved on beyond SSPX.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, at a certain point, you were attending the SSPX then, SSPX Mass when you could. Is that correct?
We never really attended an SSPX Mass because there was none at the time. The priest was still receiving training. So by the time he came back to begin his mission in Nigeria, we were no longer with the SSPX.
Okay. How long of a time was that, would you say?
Oh, this was in the year 2004, 2005, yes.
Okay, so he's gone for a little bit. So at that time, you've all become sort of in your mind Sedevacantist and thinking. What was your thought about attending Mass anywhere, or how did that? What were you thinking? Said, wow, I guess there's what we can do, or what was going through your mind with you and the group that you were with?
Well, when we discovered that we could not attend the indult, the Novo Soto, and the SSPX, we found ourselves in a difficult position. Now, let me just add here that the first time we heard about the Sedevacantist group was from a person trying to prove it to be wrong. The lawyer, Chris Ferrara, if you remember Chris Ferrara, the lawyer,
I'm familiar with
this
him. Yeah.
time. Yes. Anyway, at first I was so violently or so zealously against it until I began to study. We first of all, we read the Diamond Brothers, the articles in
Okay.
response to Ferrara. And then we read for the Chekada's article in response to Ferrara. You see that? So that's where we got convinced in any case. Now, so what was you were asking me, what was the question again, please?
I was asking, once you came to this conclusion of Sedevacantism,
About the math.
yeah, you're like, well, man, what do I do about mass? Or
Yes.
what was the turmoil, maybe, if there's any kind of thing like that?
Yes. So, personally, when I discovered the problems with these groups, I didn't really think too much beyond that. I knew that I could not attend these masses, and somehow hoped that somehow, maybe in the future, we're going to have somebody to say mass for us.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So now in our group, we have some of us were more enterprising than others. So let's say I myself was among those who took let's say at the back, we're following the orders in the front. Our leader at the time was my friend called Augustine Mary. So he was the one who made all the researches, studied, and began to contact people. So we first of all got in touch with the CMRI in America. Okay. Bishop Pevarunas was the first bishop I think we got in touch with. And then we now contacted Bishop Dolan, actually for Chekada, and then Bishop Dolan. So Bishop Dolan now helped us. He now took charge of of us, and decided to do all he could to help us. So Bishop Dolan now began to try to contact the Father Leslie that I mentioned, who now he was a very old man. He was in his 80s at the time when we met him, and he was based in South Africa. So Bishop Dolan now asked him if he could visit us in Nigeria for Mass. This was in 2007. You see, all this time we haven't ever seen a Sedevacantist priest on Mass.
So how long was that time between, let's say, the last Mass you went to finally when Father Leslie arrived?
All right, so the first time I went to the indoor Mass was in 2000 and 2002, I think 2003. Let me say, and they would go occasionally to the place until we would discover that we went there until 2004, and then we discovered that, no, 2005, and we discovered that there was a problem with this. We stopped. Between then and 2000, I finished. I was done with school in 2006. That is a year later. But I never went back to the indults. None of us, those of us who left, did not go back there. And then 2 years interval passed until Bishop Dolan managed to get Father Leslie to come to Nigeria. So he came to us in 2007, and then he came again once in a year. Once a year. So he came 2007, he came 2008, and then and then he was to come 2009, but he was killed in South Africa.
You came to the conclusion that you couldn't attend, let's say, even like a valid SSPX priest or anything.
Yes.
What was it that brought that that kind of conviction? Because maybe some that might have been maybe there might be some that might have had that, what do you call it? They feel like, well, I'll at least try to go to a resistance priest in the meantime or whatnot. What was it that brought that conviction to you?
I think basically it was the fact that somehow they were still they still considered at the time Ratzinger, right? Ratzinger, a pope. You see, we were convinced by the time we left the indult mass, we saw all the evidence, all the arguments from different sources that Ratzinger cannot be a pope. Benedict XVI. So um, that conviction was so clear in our mind that there was no gray area for us. You get my point? So it was such a clear thing in our mind, and we didn't want anything to do with him anymore. So we not because we had all the arguments at the time, everything. So when we discovered that the SSPS was still in communion in a sense with Ratzinger, they still call his name and everything at mass. No, we said we cannot do it because what was the point of leaving the Novo Sodo if we will still have to go to a group that still honors him as a pope? You see, so that was clear. Plus, we saw all those discussions and arguments from Father Chekara and all that. So it was so clear for us that we cannot. Well, I mean, I don't know whether the fact that I was studying engineering at the time made it clear to me, but it was logical for me. So I never had a problem, a difficulty differentiating between these things. It was very clear to me. So that's what made us not to attend the SSPX when we left the indult mass.